Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Tech Talk Tuesday. I am your host, Tracy Kraushorn, and this is your Team Logic team, Wayne Kraushorn and Jeremy McGowan. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are excited to bring you our final week of cybersecurity. As always, the goal of these talks, IT is ever changing, and so we want to make sure that you are educated and we get to support our business community. You can always submit questions to any of us through email or just post them here in the chat, and we will get to them as soon as we possibly can. So without further ado, we're going to start our fourth and final week of cybersecurity, and I'm going to start off with Wayne today. So Wayne, disaster recovery is a really broad term. And so the types of the disasters run the gamut, right? So it's man-made to natural disasters to successful cyber attacks. Can you expand on these a little bit and who needs to consider these disasters?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that can happen to your IT infrastructure. And so I like to think about them in two buckets. So you have the man-made disasters, so it could be a fire, it could be, a lot of times there are pipes running over IT rooms that can burst and flood an IT room. It could be riots. I know that's not a funny thing, but it's current. Somebody could go set fire to an office. So you have those, and then the natural, of course, it's the hurricanes, it's tornadoes, earthquakes. If you're in an earthquake area, we're not really in Florida. These all can take out your hardware side. Yeah. And then you've got in the other bucket, you've got the cyber side, which could, totally lock up your operating. If you get a successful ransomware attack, everything's encrypted, you can't operate, right? Until we can just wipe everything and restore. Or just a malicious attack where a lot of your files are deleted, somebody gets in and just causes havoc. So, these things can happen to anybody. Yeah. And so, to answer your question about who, really everybody really needs to consider this. It will affect some people more than others. There are some people who can, they operate off of PCs and everything's in the cloud, and maybe they're not going to be as impacted, but there are other companies with a lot of infrastructure, servers, things of that nature, which it could have a devastating effect.
Very good. Jeremy, there's a wide range of backups. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. And there are a million different types of backups. And the reason for that is because there are all different types of data sets and data structures that are out there. For example, like Wayne said, a small business or a remote user may need to only back up the stuff on their machine. A lot of times we'll see, SMB or solo entrepreneurs, single practitioners, who operate with just a couple of people, and in their case, a simple backup software on their machine may suffice. However, you go into a larger environment and they happen to have Active Directory and SQL Server, and those all change the requirements of the backup because the data needs to be backed up in a different way. But those type of backups are absolutely necessary across the board. It really depends on what kind of infrastructure that the customer has that determines what kind of backup that they require. And in any case, like we were talking about the disaster recovery piece, having the backup is absolutely essential to any disaster recovery plan. We can't work without our data, right? And there are a million different ways to do so. And we suggest that we do a quick inventory, and then we can help the customer decide what kind of backup they need. As a quick note, over my 20-something years of consulting, I've probably seen at least a dozen or 2 dozen customers come to me after they were not our customers first, but became our customers when they realized that they didn't have backups in place and they did suffer a pipe bursting in the ceiling and flooding of their computer room, or an AC system that went out and the entire server room has overheated. These things happen, and they happen a lot. And without proper backup in place, it can lead to days even sometimes a week or more of downtime. And businesses just can't afford that today in this climate.
No,
We absolutely suggest that you have a backup. Those backups need to be tested, and test restores need to be completed just to be sure that your backup is actually working and that data is now usable in the event of a disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is no warning to disasters. So
Yeah. And another quick point. I mean, we talk about disasters, but it could just be hardware failure. Your server could just all of a sudden go out. And where are you? Right. So so those are the things that can happen.
Yeah. So Wayne, we see the term and hear the term business continuity. Can you explain that to us a little bit?
Yeah, it's been kind of it's a very generic term that's become a lot more popular over the last few years. In general, what it means is your business's ability to continue operations after a disaster. And it can mean a lot of different things. And so, you know, a lot of the larger enterprise companies, you know, will set up, and I know Jeremy's talked about having to do this in his past, where they set up completely redundant hardware systems. It's very expensive, but for those companies that have critical operations and they cannot be down, that's how they do that. But it's very cost prohibitive for most businesses. But the reason it's this term is gaining a lot of traction is there's a lot of on-demand cloud applications now that can now bring it into a standard business's price range. You know, what we always say is the first step is you want to do a business risk analysis. You know, if you need to understand how you are impacted if you're down for an hour, if you're down for a day, down for 2 days. The good news is you can go on to do a search on Google and you can find tons of free stuff on how to do a proper business analysis. That's going to help you determine just how much you need to invest to make sure that you are up within the amount of time you need to be up. The other note I'll say is, you know, when we do these things, and I think most IT providers will do it, is you want to do a security risk assessment. So we want to go in, and it's beyond just, you know, do you have antivirus? Do you have a firewall? There's a lot of vulnerabilities that can be in your system. And when we do a full assessment, we can help button those up just to minimize the amount of time.
So Jeremy, so we know that if hardware does go out, can you talk about, you know, if it's destroyed, how people can still operate while, you know, they're replacing?
Absolutely.
Waiting.
Absolutely.
Waiting for.
Yes. With the advent of the cloud, thankfully, a lot of us already are storing, you know, our documents or whatever are being backed up to the cloud in some way, shape, or form, whether that be OneDrive, Google Drive, Dropbox, Amazon. There's 100 different options, and that is a simple and easy tool to utilize to at least have a basic backup of your everyday working documents. Let's just say you have, you know, important spreadsheets and things of that nature that need to be accessible to your staff. It's very cost effective, and it works. And we set that up for customers daily. But there's a lot more that is available in the cloud computing options. Again, though, this kind of comes back to what the analysis, like Wayne was talking about. We have to define what are those critical pieces of information, applications, or data that need to be accessible right away. And we tailor those cloud solutions for our customer needs. There is also the ability to take images of entire machines and back them up to the cloud and download them to a new machine, and boom, you're up and running. So again, there are probably a couple hundred different ways to utilize cloud computing to create or at least implement a business continuity plan. But again, that needs to be tailored to the customer needs.
Very good. Well, this has been some awesome information today. We hope you've gotten a little something out of it. Wayne, what's coming next week?
Next week, we are going to go into the world of VPNs, remote desktops. We're going to do some cool file sharing techniques between employees, especially in the remote environment. You know, we're seeing, it's interesting, most businesses, at least here in Florida, are coming back, but there's a lot of employees who are remaining remote, and we see that in a lot of our customers.
Yeah.
So what we want to talk about a little bit more is some of the products that are out there and the technologies and how to be more effective for your business.
Very good. All right, Jeremy, what you got for us for the tip of the week?
Oh, we were going to talk about internet service and redundancy. This is huge because as time progresses, each of us are depending more and more and more on our cloud-based apps. Now, not just for our backup, but also for our productivity. And how often has your internet connection gone out? Home, at the office, it's gone out several times for every single one of us out there at some point. And we're kind of dead in the water when we can't get our email. And now phone systems are usually based upon our internet service provider as well. If we have a VoIP system, now you can't email, now you can't use the phone. There is an easy solution for that. In most metropolitan areas, there are more than one ISP that can provide high-speed data access to your home or business. And current technology allows one router or firewall to combine those two internet connections so that if one was happened to go out, it can automatically roll over to the other one. You don't skip a beat and you're working. It can be very cost effective. And we've done this for hundreds of customers over the years. I have personally done it for hundreds of customers over the years. It is a solid, great backup plan to have. Outages happen, and it may affect Spectrum, but it doesn't happen to affect Verizon, and that's why you have diversity in your ISPs, which provides you extra.
Yeah. Also, you can run some load balancing as well, and run the two simultaneously.
That is correct.
And then, you know, we've also seen some people, they don't want to pay, they don't have a lot of bandwidth requirement. And so what they'll do is maybe they'll have an on-demand hotspot and switch over to that. It's a lower cost solution if you don't have a large office. So there's a lot of ways we can tailor those solutions.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, as of yet, we don't have any questions, but we encourage you to pop them down in the comments and we will get back to you as soon as we can. Until next week, we are your Team Logic team. I am Tracy, this is Wayne, and that is Jeremy. Thank you so much for joining us today and have a great week.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.